的各位家长、同学们，大家好，欢迎来到飞达教育系列线上讲座。在正式开始前呢，我们会稍微等待一会儿还没入场的学生和家长。飞达教育2004年由毕业于美国常春藤名校校友魏新先生倡导，和斯坦福大学前副校长、教务长米勒博士等著名人士协助下创办。魏先生早年在华尔街从事人工智能、金融系统开发，硅谷高科技公司成功创业后，全身心致力于教育事业，被家长誉为藤娃背后的推手。在竞争越来越激烈的升学环境中，魏老师16年来首次亲自开讲2020年申请文书撰写攻略，如何规避亚裔学生常犯的错误，专门为11年级学生开设的 Cap Writing Workshop， 内容包括如何撰写 UC、Coming Up、CAS 等不同网申，亲自为今年准备申请大学的同学们保驾护航。请锁定每周二下午2点到3点南加著名电台1300升学直通车，魏老师帮您解答最新升学技巧与策略。大家也可以扫描屏幕上的2维码收听往期回顾。欢迎订阅飞达教育官方 YouTube 频道 Ivy Max Media Center， 了解更多升学资讯。飞达教育在南北加有9个校区 ：Cupertino、Fremont、Pleasanton、San Ramon、Palo Alto、Irvine、Diamond Bar、Arcadia、San Diego。飞达教育也是美国奥林匹克数学竞赛考试中心，今年成功举办了 AMC 8、10、12和 Amy 考试，帮助许多同学成功进阶 Amy 半决赛和 USAMO 决赛。在这里要热烈祝贺飞达教育在刚刚结束的竞赛中成功晋级 USOMO 的同学们，以及成功晋级 USOJMO 数学竞赛决赛的同学们。2018年被大学理事会认证为 AP 学分课的授课地点，2019年成功拿到美国教育界 WASC SEP 认证，提供20余门 AP 课程、荣誉课程、A-G 学分课程。想帮助孩子提升 GPA， 快来找飞达吧！飞达教育的师资团队包括美国大学理事会认证 AP 老师、AP 考试阅卷人、美国写作协会成员，以及拥有多年 AP、SAT 执教背景和教学经验，提供最有保障的教学质量。学生 SAT 平均涨分245.5分。飞达教育的大学申请顾问团队包括一流名校背景的招生官和面试官，以及藤校毕业的文书老师，16年来帮助成千上万的亚裔学生进入心中理想的大学，包括哈佛、斯坦福、哥伦比亚、宾大沃顿商学院、康奈尔、布朗、普林斯顿、耶鲁、麻省理工 MIT、UC Berkeley、UCLA、USC 等一流名校。高中规划找飞达，大学申请找飞达，想上斯坦福、伯克利还是找飞达。16年来，飞达教育除了帮助学生们学业提升，更关注素质教育，全面提升打造社会责任感和抗压能力。疫情期间，飞达教育和飞达教育基金会联手，带领同学们与各地政府联合，为医院、老人院、警察局以及消防部门捐赠抗疫物资和现金，得到市长们和学区委员会以及加州议员的嘉奖。飞达文教基金会出资出力，组织学生社团和众多家长积极投入当地各项捐赠活动，改变主流媒体对华裔的偏见。满满几十箱的防疫物资承载了家长和学生对社区的关心和关爱。各地媒体也相继报道同学们的募捐活动。而湾市长 Christina 在市议会上大力表彰飞达教育在培养学生在政治和社会方面的卓越贡献。
This is Commendation Ivy Max Academy.Whereas Ivy Max Academy is an in-center online education service provider that provides students numerous opportunities, including college counseling, participation in service clubs, and learning practical life skills, and they're making a true difference in the world. So now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Irvine does hereby commend Ivy Max Academy for its generous monetary donation, as well as its donation delivery of personal protective equipment, and expresses sincere gratitude for its service to the Irvine community. And again, signed by myself, the mayor. Thank you so very much.
与此同时，飞达教育暑期开设的各类线上 SAT、ACT 培训班、奥林匹克竞赛班、数学奥林匹克竞赛 AMC、生物奥林匹克竞赛、物理奥林匹克竞赛、计算机奥林匹克竞赛等，飞达最强博士团队、大学理事会认证讲师教授课程，曾带领无数学生进入半决赛和决赛，为你的升学加分。值得一提的是，美国奥林匹克计算机竞赛课程按学生程度分为普通班和高级班，保证每一位学生的学习效果。
At Ivy Max, I will deliver 2 different essential classes. One is for bronze and silver. The other is for gold and platinum. Regarding user code, this is I would say if you look for differentiation in computer science, user code definitely is place you want to try. And under here is you see there are bronze, silver, gold, and platinum levels. So the requirement on data structure and algorithm gonna be different. For our essential classes, for all the 4 levels correspondingly, we will focus on in-depth overview of data structure and algorithm. That's the first part. The second part would be basic applications to the user cases. So also we want to practicing students on the parts that when you take a questions, you understand what the DS or algorithm this is associated to, and then pursue to solve it. So just wrap it up. We have a bronze and a silver essential class. We also have a gold and platinum essential class over this summer.
飞达教育、加州大学尔恩分校 UC Irvine 强联手，为自优生带来 SEY 下校项目 Summer for Talented Youth， 针对7到10年级学生。教师团队包括 UCI 教授、大学理事会认证讲师、写作协会成员、加州大学伯克利分校的辩论队裁判和主辩手等各学科前沿人物。同学们有机会和 UCI 学校招生官互动交流，学习商科、科研报告和论文的写作，培养写作和批判性思辨能力，获得 UC 加州大学颁发的捷克证书以及高中的成绩单。表现优异的学生更将有机会获得 UCI 教授的推荐信，机会难得，不容错过。感兴趣 SEY 下校项目的学生和家长，请抓紧时间联系我们的老师吧，名额有限，先到先得。飞达教育是美国唯一真正注重孩子们的素质教育以及全方面发展的教育团队，致力于从小培养他们的领导力、社会责任感和国际化视野，对政治时事关注意识。我们将会全面展开青少年辩论赛 National Youth Debate， 讨论眼下的疫情，希望学生通过辩论获得更多做研究、辩论、推理和深入逻辑思维的思考能力。本次辩论的报名费将会用于疫情期间的捐款和物资的购买。参加的小辩手们可以获得总统义工小时数。辩论形式将会采用公共论坛，适合所有高中和初中的同学参加。关注飞达教育公众号 Instagram ivmaxofficial， 官方网站 ivmax.kong， 了解更多升学资讯。福利时间到，锁定美西时间每周5下午6点半到7点半，线上公益教育讲座系列，由飞达教育创办人内老师张校长亲自主持，讨论眼下家长和学生们最关心的时事与教育话题。讲座结束后，更有魏老师张校长亲自答疑。大家记住，每周5晚的6点半，我们不见不散哦。如果您对我们的项目感兴趣，想进一步帮助到孩子，那就请联系飞达的工作人员吧。谢谢您的到来。
Okay, it's time to start. Welcome all the parents and students joining us today webinars. My name is Sophia. I'm from Ivy Max San Diego Center. I'm here representing Ivy Max North Cal and South Cal all 9 learning centers to thank all your support and participate. Today, we are honored to have our Ivy Max Education founder, Mr. Wei, and our senior editor, Mr. Ren, to talk about the key difficulties of college applications essay, as well as those unknown writing skills for college application. Many parents think that college application just submitting an essay just submitting an essay that's wrote by your kids. But is it really that's true? And most of the time we can see that we have 2 kids, and one of them have, the other kids have very similar grades with your kids, and you guys have a similar activities. But some of them end up in the Ivy League school, but some of them don't. But let's talk about why that happens. Today, let's our 2 writing masters explain us in details. And here's today's agenda. First, we're going to start with introduction, and then it's going to be our editor, counselor sharing. And in the final, we have questions and Q&A sections. Let's welcome Ivy Max Principal, Ms. Vicky Zhang, to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Mr. Wei. Thank you, Mr. Ren. And it's my honor today to present the two of them. I believe that between the two of them, they probably helped the most number of students from Ivy Max to dream colleges. Mr. Wei actually was the founder of Ivy Max, has been with Ivy Max for the past 16 years. And then Mr. Ren Hong, actually, he has been with Ivy Max for a long time as well, at least for the past 7 years. So I think today we're very lucky to have both of them to share their in-depth, reflections and also insights about the college application process. Before actually we get them started, we have a couple of important housekeeping, issues. So let's welcome Mr. Wei.
Sorry, always forgetting to mute myself. Okay, couple of things. First, of course, is the latest from top 315 colleges around the country, which have kind of a collective statement from all the admission deans. This was just published last week. So in it, all the admission deans kind of stressed what these colleges are looking for, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, with all the new challenges and all the changes in everybody's life, as well as in the country, in the economy, in pretty much every sector of society. What's going to be the next generation of young people these top-tier schools will be looking for in this fall as well as in the coming years. So, so this is the probably biggest thing in college admissions during the recent times. We probably still remember a few years back, 5 years ago in 2016, led by Harvard University, the Ivy League schools and most of the private schools started their coalition, the new CAAS coalition. So at the time, that was described as a turning tide, right? Dramatic change in college admissions processes, and with this new collective statement, it's a second wave in that tidal waves. So how do we prepare our high school students to be ready and to be naturally favored candidates in the whole selection process? It requires new thinking and fresh approaches. So with this, we actually have a specific webinar tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. So I'm going to put a pre-plug for that. I'm going to have more details later on at the end of today's seminar. But tomorrow afternoon, we will be talking about all these latest changes. And then, of course, second item before we get started is the new Proposition 16 that will be voted on by all California voters this November, on November the 3rd. So I encourage everybody online today, if you're a citizen, exercise your right. Register to be a voter if you haven't already done so. And if you have, congratulations, you are a voice that will be reckoned with. So as Asians, we really need to speak out, and to the extent we can, do whatever it takes. Let's defeat this Proposition 16, which is basically what ACA 5 has become after it passes through the California legislature. So now it's going to be on the ballot, and let's all vote no. That's not that these kinds of racial quotas to dictate what our kids will be able to do in terms of receiving education, as well as getting into the job market. This whole Proposition 16 will kind of roll back what has taken place over the last 30, 40 years and go back to the racial quotas again in terms of higher education, as well as job opportunities and contract opportunities for Asian American families and businesses. So these are two important announcements before we get started with today's meeting. Thank you again for joining us today on this Friday evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wei. Let me start by introducing the reflections on college application process. Actually, I remember when we first started with IB Max 16 years ago, we had this vision of sending our students to the dream school and beyond. So I think for the past 16 years, my team of IB Max colleagues and I, Mr. Wei, we have been working very hard, to that extent, so that students only look at, admissions to top-tier schools as means, not as ends. So, and I believe that a lot of the parents in front of the computer today actually are IB Max VIP parents. And I want to thank you for your support over the past 16 years. And we're confident that IB Max has been preparing your kids really well, for the challenges, no matter what. So I think we, unlike many other places, IB Max adopt a very holistic approach when it comes to education as well as college counseling. So in front of you guys, actually I have listed 6 students. So they all actually from our latest application season. And they all got into the dream schools, including Wharton at Penn, MIT, Cornell, Yale, Stanford, as well as Harvard. And then they express a very diverse interest. So some of them, is going to pursue STEM fields, and some of them are going to pursue economics and business. And actually, some of them are going to pursue computer science or political science. Yeah, so I believe that both Mr. Wei and Mr. Ren are very familiar with those students. At IB Max, we will assign a student to work with a primary editor, but on top of that, we also have final editor to look over the shoulders of the senior editor to make sure that the students' essays are well aligned and there's no hiccups. And I believe that both Mr. Wei and Mr. Ren have been serving both primary editor as well as final editors for a lot of IB Max students. So without further ado, I would like to get them started. So who would like to go first? How about Ren?
Sure.
Are you recognizing some
Vicky.
of the familiar faces?
Yeah. So we see Lauren there, who's gotten to Wharton. So she has been very instrumental in founding and establishing our club of mental health for youth, right? So we wanted to make sure that when she submitted her application that she was able to highlight what she's been able to do for teens to help them find resources for mental health, how to de-stress, and also publicize what they do, right? And then we have, Sean, who is going to Cornell, and he has been very involved in education for all. So teaching kids in China over the internet, over Zoom, these classes on English and all these other topics that the rural areas in China don't really have access to, right? And for Rachel, who's going to Harvard, she worked more locally. Like she helped out at a local math field day in San Diego, but she was also able to talk about her experience as a woman in STEM and what unique challenges that has been for her. So when we prepare these essays, we want to make sure that the students highlight these, like the strengths that they have, the aspects that they most need the colleges to know.
Thank you, Mr. Ren. So, Mr. Wei, I believe you could fill in for the other 2 students or 3.
Yeah, it's not only in Lauren's and Sean's case where they really talk about their influence and impact on other people's lives during their high school years, right? What they have done to really contribute to their schools, their local communities, and of course, communities far away. In Sean's case, the Ningxia kids, he's continuing to teach over the internet, and kids from other impoverished places. And then of course, for Jerry, who's going to Yale and who was also accepted by Stanford, his essay was all about his kind of passionate pursuits in civil engagement and local community work, basically being a young community activist, how he has been involved in many of the local and even national issues and activities that impact society as a whole, as well as impact many of his local constituents, including schools and local communities even. So in almost all of their essays, they put a huge emphasis on what they have done to impact others, not just what they have done to become a better student or better officer in student governments and so on and so forth. So it's not just about what they have done to improve themselves, really what they have done to impact others. Even in David's case as well, he's going to study computer science, physics at Harvard, and he's done extensive scientific research and academic research work while he was in high school. But I remember his essay was all about how he was able to use putting together podcasts to teach other underserved or impoverished students to have a voice so that their desires and their thoughts can be heard and can be shared with others, with other kids, as well as with other segments of society. So, even though he's passionate about science and about computer science, and yet his essay was full of passion about what he was able to do from kind of a individual activity that he started sometime in high school, all the way to a school district-wide effort that he's put together to teach other kids how to do podcasts to really make teenagers' voices heard in the communities. So I think if we have to pinpoint to sort of the common thread in all of their essays, they really didn't talk about many of the so-called stereotypical common topics that, as you can see here, Mr. Renhong can probably give you more insights into, but rather on something that they were able to do to help others.
Right, so thank you. And to continue with what our popular essay topics were, maybe the term should be two common essay topics, right? So if you think about how many students there are in the United States, how many of them are applying to college, a very popular school like Cornell or Harvard is probably gonna get like 40,000 applications a year, right? So if their incoming class is only 1,000 people, how do you stand out from that 40,000 to be one of the 1,000 that actually gets in? So, but when people think about what they do, they might come up with some stories. Okay, so I know I'm in speech and debate, or I'm in science Olympiad, robotics, academic team. So, well, all these other schools, all these other high schools with students you're competing against have those clubs that have those teams too, right? So how can you stand out, right? Other things like Asians, also very well known to participate in tennis, badminton, violin, piano. These are very stereotypical Asian habits, right? Asian activities. So if you want to stand out, maybe you want to write about something else, unless like you really are that great. Like maybe if you're like ranked very highly, or you perform in some concert halls in like Moscow, like those are probably okay. But in general, we want to stay away from things that are too stereotypically Asian. Business, we have a lot of people applying to business. So this is one of the more common topics we come across. So then the question becomes, well, how can we make your business sound unique? How is what you did different from everyone else who also has a business idea? And of course, because we have a lot of recent and new immigrants within our group, with our students, someone might want to think, okay, I want to talk about moving from China. It was difficult to learn English and all the challenges with that. Well, again, there are lots of people who have that, right? So I want students to be able to talk about something that's much more specific than just something that 40,000, well, not 40,000 people move from China, but like more like if there's a few thousand people in that same pool, you still want to stand out. Even if it's 3,000 people, the school can only accept 1,000, right? So these are some things we want to talk over with the students to make sure that, okay, we got to get you to stand out. Okay, next slide.
So Mr. Ren, so is it fair to say that tell our students to try to stay away from those cliche topics, or if they run out of things to write, if they have to write about those topics, they have to be very careful with how they present the ideas and essays. Is that true?
Yes, they have to be very careful about how they present their ideas. So again, if it's unavoidable because, say for instance, maybe they don't have any other activities, then we really have to go very personal. Okay, so what is it that you do that is so different from everybody that even though it's about, let's say, violin, well, do you use the violin in some other context? Are you teaching kids online how to play music, or teaching them music even though these kids might be very far away? So these are some things that you might be able to do to make your story stand out, even though you have activities that are similar to other students.
So in other words, this is what actually Ivy Max counselor or editor could help, right? Is to help our students to brainstorm ideas, even on cliche topics. So they can present it in a unique way and then creatively, right? So that the reader will not feel bored. Oh, just another one of these sort of essay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so talking about essay writing. So you've been, Ivy Max for the past 7 years. So you're a veteran now. So what do you see as a common thread or of the common pitfalls in essay writing?
Yeah. So talk about terms, speaking in terms too broad to be descriptive. So if people talk about very general things that happened or things that other people also saw, right? So, oh, everyone got on the bus, everyone saw the kids. These aren't very unique to someone's experience, right? So you have to talk about your own feelings or your own interactions, which would all be different for everyone, right? And also if people speak very generally about like, oh, I did this activity, it was great. If it's too general, it sounds fake. Even if it's a really cool thing that you did, if there's no details, it just sounds fake. And you want people to believe that this actually happened. And then picking a topic too common to stand out, this is something we already covered with the cliche topics, right? So is it a club that other schools have? Is it an activity other students do? If that's true, then how do you make it unique to you, or should you consider writing about something else? Third one, talking about or promising things that haven't happened yet. So let's say you want to declare a major, but you have no activities that are related to this major. So it's hard to make the case that, yes, I will study this if there's no previous action that backs it up. Right? And some students might say, oh, if I didn't do well in this, I promise I will be better in the future. But again, where is the evidence? Where is the action? So these are things that colleges need to basically believe that you are going to do what you say you will. Right? So next part, an essay that looks like a resume. This is a very common one that the UC admission officers have even said, do not send us an essay that looks like this. Right? So as part of the application, there's already a section that has a place for you to list all your activities. Right? So they don't need to read it again. So focus on maybe just one or a few things that you did and then expand on that. Now, of course, the essay doesn't have to be something on the activity list, but that's just an option. But just make sure that when you write your essay, it doesn't look exactly like, it's not just a resume in sentence form. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Ben.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then talk about writing only about what happened. So sometimes we'll see essays that are very process-based. I did this, then I did this, then I did this, then I did this, but there's not a lot about, well, what did I think about it? How did I feel about it? What I learned? So the reflection is still a very important part too. And those are the things we try to make sure that students also are able to access or also think about, because sometimes they don't think about these things when they draft them out. So we nudge them in the right direction when it comes to these kinds of things.
Thank you, Ren.
Okay.
Yeah, I also help students and editors to do the final reviews sometimes, and I see that students like to tell the whole life story in a 250 words essay. Right? That's really a big mistake. So Mr. Wei, you have something to share?
Okay. Well, I see some parents are asking questions in the chat window. So in response to them, I think I will sort of recap or summarize what has been discussed in Chinese, because some parents are asking, they couldn't understand the English that well. And of course, there was some other specific questions as well. 所以就是我大概用中文概括一下，就是我们刚才已经讨论的这些话题，就是说学生在写作文的时候，特别是申请的作文，一定不能这个跟着这个所谓大的趋势，或者说大的潮流，就是大家都写什么，我一定要写什么，好像就是说这个是最受人喜欢的一个题目所有人都写这个题目，那我要是不写，不是吃亏了吗？绝对不是这个概念，恰恰相反，如果每一个人都写这个题目，我跟你说，招生办的老师，我们平时在跟他们的沟通里面所听到的这个反馈，对吧？他们最常用的一个这个反馈就是读了学生的作文了之后，马上来一句another one of these。中文怎么解释？哎呦，怎么又来一个这样的文章？怎么又来一篇写这个题目的文章？这个是所有招生办老师最常用的一个 expression。那如果他看了你申请的作文以后，第一反应就是说，哎呦，怎么又来一个这篇文章？怎么又来一个写这个题目的？肯定已经被刷掉了。OK， 所以就是说，尽量有可能不要去写这个刚才荣宏老师列出来的这些所谓 popular 或者说 common topic， 对吧？那有一个家长刚才也提到说，哎呦，那要是我的这个小朋友的经历，确实也是他提到的这些里面之一，但是有一些很独特的东西 ，Well, guess what？ 绝对不能是以家长或者说学生的这个评判标准，觉得他好像有一些独特的东西就够了。为什么？因为你根本没看见过别的小朋友、别的学生写同样类型的这个文章到底写了些什么东西。OK， 所以这个也是为什么有飞达的老师指导之下写出来的文章就是不一样。就算是写这些题目，他真的是从学生身上挖掘出一些非常独特、非常所谓不同的，可以帮他脱颖而出、与众不同的这个亮点的东西。OK， 所以就说，如果您小孩的这个准备写的一个题目，他的这个角度和他准备写的什么样的一些想法等等这些东西，如果飞达的老师一看了以后都觉得 too common、too cliché，OK， 太常见的东西，那是绝对不可行的。OK， 为什么？因为作为一个招生办的老师来讲，可能比飞达的这些 editor 和 counselor 飞达的这些老师见到的同样题目的作文还要多10倍，还要多100倍。所以就是说，如果飞达的老师都觉得你这个是 too common、too ununique， 或者说 non-unique， 那是绝对不可行的。OK， 所以就说最好还是要这些有经验的老师过一眼，那他们指导之下做出来的作文，最后这个结果就是不一样。再一个就是说，学生一定不要去想着，哎呦，我是不是将来学商科的，我的作文一定要是写商科方面的经历，绝对不是。所以为什么荣宏老师刚才说了，这个就是说太常见的题目里面也包括写这个 business 方面的这些东西，对吧？小朋友想着，要去学商科，就一定要写这方面的东西。我们前面例子里面 Lauren， 对吧？他就是要去 Wharton 读 business， 但他的作文是写他的这个整个这个青少年 mental health， 对吧 ？Youth mental health 这方面的他的 effort， 他的这个 passionate pursuit， 对吧？他怎么样去结合他的艺术方面的这个天赋，对吧？去做 newsletter， 去做 outreach， 去让更多的人了解这个方面的这个青少年遇到的挑战，怎么样去应对这方面各式各样的这种挑战，对吧？所以就说，那他写的这些东西其实跟 business 是没有关系的，但是这个沃顿商学院一定要录他，为什么？他把他同样的这些 passion， 沃顿知道，对吧？他用在他学习也好，还是将来做生意也好，一样的会非常成功。为什么？因为他这个做事的热忱会 让他在做任何事情方面都会有正面的结果。所以就说有时候不是可能像学生想象的那样，我是一就说一，是二就说二，我想学商科一定要写跟上课方面有关的经历，绝对不是这个概念。好仁宏老师 ，Go on next.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Ren, can I offer some? Sorry, yeah. I also have an interesting anecdote to contribute. Yeah, following on what Mr. Wei just shared, I recall that there's a student who also wanted to apply Wharton, and he had a very different topic from what the editor, agreed upon. So the student had a big fight. I mean, not physical fight, but had a big disagreement with our editor. But towards the end, he kind of agreed with the editor's preference. So he went on with editor's choice, suggested, topics, and he got into Wharton MNT, early decision, right? So had he not followed the editor's suggestion, he may not get in. So every year we see, examples like that. 对，所以我就想用中文讲一下好了哈，因为有的时候呢，孩子可能对某一件事情他非常有 passion， 他就是要写这个 topic。那我们的 editor 就是我们的老师，就是这个怎么呢？就是算是守门人，对吧？那他可能甚至于跟孩子去争辩，要去说服他说你这样写下去是写不好这个作文的，对吧？当然我前面举了一个例子说明，后来那个孩子还好，后来就听了我们 editor 的话，就把这个题目换成了那个 editor 建议的那个题目，结果他今年也被沃顿的这个 MNT 就 double major 录取了。对吧？所以后来 editor 还特别跟我分享这件事情，然后家长也特别感激飞达，在临门一脚，在他最关键的时候，在他选择这个 essay 的题目的时候 ，editor 起了决定的作用。So Ren was trying to say that sometimes you as editors, had to persuade in a way, right? The students,
right.
On the topics that you think it will help him to stand out more than himself or herself. Yeah, can you think of a couple of examples?
Right, so I always actually ask students for their resumes first, right? So we go over what is in there, and we can talk about, okay, what things are you thinking about, and then what things do I see? Because sometimes they don't match. Students sometimes think about only how to put it? People have their own lived experiences, and they don't really think about how others could think, okay, this thing you do is pretty awesome, but they just think, oh, this is normal. So when we go over the whole profiles, okay, what's in the resume, what have you done outside of class, all those kind of things, maybe sometimes we see something different than what the student sees. And then we push the student to say, okay, you should probably talk about this, because if I were at college, I would really want to know this about you. And if you don't tell me about it, then I would never know, because the essay is probably the only part where the student can actually express him or herself. Because everything else is numbers and stats.
Well said, Mr. Ren. I mean, given the latest development in college admissions, right, the numbers and stats, has become less important now. Like all of the schools that, let go of SAT or ACT requirements, so on and so forth. So the essays has become, most important, especially for this upcoming season. Correct, Mr. Ren? Right?
Yes. So because a lot of schools, including the UCs and Harvard, they basically said, we know you can't take the SATs, so we're not going to look at them. So there's going to start looking at other things, softer things like your essays, your activities, your recommendations. Right?
Yep.
These will become more important now than they have been before.
Yeah. 对，我再用中文解释一下好了，就是作文可能从来没有像今年那么样的重要。因为之前的话呢，这些大学还可以把你的分数标准化的考试的分数来比较来看一看。那今年因为这个 coronavirus 的情况，所以呢很多大学呢都取消了 SAT 和 ACT 的要求。其实这个对于亚裔申请是非常的不利的，所以这个 essay 作文方面就变得非常的关键。所以我们希望说，这个家长和孩子们一定不能掉以轻心。这个作文呢，一定要请这个专业的老师来帮忙来指导，最后呢不要有遗憾。So we talk about the essays being the deal maker or breaker, right, in a way. And there's also other elements coming to a successful admission. So picking the right college is also critical. At Ivy Max, our counsel and editors would usually work with the students to come up with 3 tiers of schools, for the students to use as reference. So the first tier, actually, we call them challenging schools or rich schools, so to speak. And then the mid tier, we call them target schools, so-called 目标学校. Okay, and then the lower tier would be the safety schools. So, Mr. Ren, can you talk a little bit about how do you help students come up with the 3 layers of schools that they'll be applying?
Sure. So oftentimes, well, we usually have counseling sessions before. So for some of our VIP students who we work with since 10th grade, 9th grade, or even before, we've sat down with them like every month or every 2 months to go over, okay, how are your grades? How are your SATs? What activities you're participating in? What activities should you be participating in that match your interests? Those kinds of things. And then from there, we can find out, okay, what are the students' interests? How good are the students' academics? What kind of activities are they doing? What kind of major do they want to do in the future? And from there, we can start shaping what the school list is. Of course, if the student has really good grades, has excellent extracurriculars, great test scores, then we can look at more of the challenging schools. For students who aren't as high achieving, well, we can scale it down a little bit more, right? So for our highest achieving students, yes, we can look at like maybe 4 or more challenging schools on the list. And then we have a set of target schools of which we think, okay, based on your SAT, your grades, we can reasonably assume you should get into these schools. And then the last few we decide on, okay, we know you can definitely get into these schools because of your qualifications. And that's how we make those decisions. And it's unique for each student based on where they are academically and extracurricularly. So, but based on my personal experience, most of my students want to apply to Penn. I think that might be because Southern California has a lot of people who like business, but also this, from my personal experience, has been the Ivy that I've gotten the most students into. And that's probably been a little bit of a circle that way. So they come to me because they want to go to Penn, but that's its own story. But yes, Penn has been very popular, especially with business and occasionally M&T and engineering. So some of the other schools, of course, we have all the Ivies right there: Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Yale, Stanford, Chicago, Carnegie Mellon, Johns Hopkins. We have a lot of these top tier schools that people really want to go to. And recently we've also had more girls want to look at Barnard and Wellesley, which are the top women's schools, right? So the most famous women's schools, very big names, great locations. So because Barnard is right in New York City, it's next to Columbia, so a lot of girls want to go there. The Claremont colleges, so of course, Pomona, CMC, Harvey Mudd, Pitzer, Scripps. Now, I personally have not had as many people apply to MIT, Princeton, and Harvard. I think it's because people are intimidated by the names and the acceptance rates. That's at least when I ask, you want to go to Harvard, so why are you applying? It's like, oh, I don't think I'll get it. So that's what I hear a lot. And as for more of the targets, we have the UCs, of course, U Washington in Seattle, U Texas Austin, Illinois, U Michigan, New York University, Boston College, Boston University, Northeastern, Fordham, Pepperdine. Of course, there's definitely a lot more, but these tend to be our most popular schools. The East Coast ones, the California ones, not so much the ones in the South and the Midwest, though. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Wei, do you have anything to add to what Mr. Ren just shared?
Yeah, in more recent years, especially during the last 3 to 5 years, many families have also looked at the leading liberal arts colleges. I think that's a very misunderstood and kind of overlooked area when families consider college choices, because in our generation, when most of the parents we work with, when they came to the US to study, to pursue education, it's all about graduate school. So in those early decades, the parents of many of our students, when they came to the States, they came here to pursue graduate studies, masters, PhDs, and other graduate schools. So they, of course, never looked at the liberal arts colleges, which specialize in undergraduate education, right? So to parents, many of the top-notch educational opportunities presented by the liberal arts colleges are very much misunderstood or overlooked. So that's also something I think every rising senior needs to do some research about this summer, especially now you have the time. Look at some of the liberal arts colleges. Many of them present great values as well as even unheard of opportunities if you want to pursue certain fields, or for most students who want to study science and other humanities fields, these are great places. The only exception is probably engineering fields. If you want to study engineering, there are only a few of them amongst the liberal arts colleges like Havima and so on and so forth. But I mean, even for that, these few liberal arts colleges are great competitive choices, even compared to Stanford and MIT. So I highly encourage everybody to take a look at various different liberal arts colleges and don't miss out on those opportunities when they consider schools.
Okay, so to recap a little bit on what we covered previously, we talked about mostly essays, the importance of essays, as well as the importance of picking the right colleges to apply, and then comes another critical question: what majors, right? So actually, crafting a successful essay for an editor to help a student to craft a successful essay, this editor should also keep in mind on what possible majors the students are going into, right, Mr. Ren?
Yes, so it's a holistic process, right? So when it comes to a lot of schools, there's probably also a why school essay or a why major essay. So that story cannot overlap too much with the main common app essay story. So these have to be different things. So for instance, that's why Lauren can talk about mental health for youth for Common App, and then talk about something that's much more related to business for the why school. And then that also shows different aspects of her. So it's not just, oh, I only do business, I don't do anything else, right? So colleges want to know these different sides of you. Now, when it comes to majors, these are the popular ones. Again, business probably because a lot of people in SoCal are into business. Engineering because we know STEM is very popular with Asians in general. So engineering, computer science, biology, chemistry, economics not STEM, but I'll get to that one later. Engineering, computer science, biology, and chemistry, these STEM fields are generally popular with Asian students and Asian families because that's what a lot of our values have geared us towards culturally, right? And then economics, that's very closely tied with business. So people who don't want to do business but want to do something similar, they do economics, and the other way around, that works too. Now, the thing is, depending on the school the student applies to, let's say, especially for UCs, some of these majors are capped or what we call impacted. So for instance, applying to undeclared engineering as an Asian male for Berkeley is a very bad idea because your acceptance rate is way lower than if you applied for College of Letters and Science in a different major. Now, of course, that leads to the question, well, is it more valuable for me to go to Berkeley, or is it more valuable for me to learn engineering? Because at some schools, you can't really transfer. At other schools, you can. That really depends on the school, right? So when parents ask, well, can the student just get in with one major and then switch over to something else? The answer is, it depends. So it depends on the school, and it depends on how competitive the major is. So let's say if a student gets into a really hard to enter major and they want to transfer out, they can. If they get into an easy major but want to transfer into a hard one, the answer is probably no. So some schools like Carnegie Mellon, they don't accept transfers into their computer science program. NYU does not accept transfers into their film program. So some of these things can be very tricky when it comes to deciding what majors the student should apply for.
Okay, so Ren, I think there's also the common myth about the major in biology and chemistry, especially for students who want to pursue a medical, like, who want to become a doctor in the future. So I heard oftentimes parents telling me, oh, my kids have to study biology, chemistry in college. Otherwise, he won't get into, medical school, so on and so forth. And we think this is actually a very commonly held myth.
Right, so really the med schools are just looking for pre-med requirements. So chemistry or biology as a major is not required. I mean, it's easy just because those classes are already taken anyway, right? But if you take the pre-med requirements but want to major in music, you can still do that. So it's not required to take the major of the pre-med requirements, as long as you take all those classes.
Correct, yeah. So Mr.
那我就稍稍用中文解释一下，因为确实有很多小孩将来想学医，对吧？走学医的这条路，那么大家都觉得，哎呦，那特别是父母，因为如果在中国大陆或者其他很多国家，你要想学医的话，你是学这个所谓生化方面相关的专业的，或者直接进入大学先就进入医学院，对吧？但美国不是这么一条路，所以就说凡属想学医的小朋友，大学期间他一定要就是说把医学院相关的一些必修课得修了，也就是刚才任宏老师说的这个所谓 pre-med requirements。所以就说不管你本科是什么专业，你可以是学历史、学文学、学音乐、学任何专业的，只要你把医学院要求的必修课大学期间都修过了，你将来是一样可以申请医学院去学医的，对吧？我们飞达16年里面最有名的这个案例，那就是当初一位女生，她大学本科是上的一个 liberal arts college， 学的这个专业是文学，而且还不光是普通的文学，它是这个欧洲古典文学。那可以说这个是跟学医是完全不搭嘎，10万8千里的不一样，对吧？一样的，他文理学院毕业以后，虽然是这个classical European literature major， 对吧？欧洲古典文学毕业了业以后，他考上了这个纽约大学医学院 NYU 的 medical school， 然后纽约大学医学院毕业了以后，在宾大的医学院做这个实习医生，现在已经是胸腔外科的这个 open heart surgeon， 胸腔外科医生。OK， 所以就说还不是说你这个将来学医是不是很挑战？你如果没学这个生化方面专业的话，完全不是这个概念。OK， 所以家长一定不要就是说太这个目标太狭窄了，就是说想着小朋友将来学医的话，我是不是本科一定要学生化或者说相关的专业？在美国本科的教育确实是这个基础知识通识教育，所以就说只要真正去个好的学校，基础打好了，将来其实什么样的方向都是可以发展。
All right. So thank you, Mr. Wei. Thank you, Mr. Ren. So here we are talking about COVID-19. So we actually at a very challenging and difficult situation here. So what would be your advice to students' parents?
Right. So colleges know that students' plans have been impacted. So maybe you had signed up for Cosmos and you got in, but you can't go anymore because Cosmos was canceled, right? So the Common App has included an optional 250-word space to discuss the impact of the pandemic on you. So maybe if there's something with the education, the way the schooling is done, like you learn differently when you're online, then you can talk about that there. So it's 250 words. And then as we talked about earlier in this seminar, 315 colleges have made that joint statement about what they want to see, how you dealt with the pandemic. But we don't know yet if this will affect the supplemental essays, right? So we'll find out in about a month. Now, what they say, what they want to look for is, okay, how do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your family? How do you take care of your community? right? So those are some 3 big things that they're looking for. So I would push students to consider those 3 things and how they can take steps to make that happen, right? Now, of course, doing all sorts of different community things that you don't really care about isn't something they want to see either. The college has said they don't want pandemic service Olympics, right? So they want something that comes from the heart to say, oh yes, I actually do care about this. Why, right? So develop that idea about, okay, what can I do, right? So a few things I always suggest: you can take online classes, right? We have online classes here at Ivy Max, but of course there are also other online classes you can find too, where you can research, okay, what are some majors I want to study? So what are some classes related to that major, right? What are some prerequisites that would help me get into that major or are similar to an interest I have anyway, right? And of course, I also recommend that our students volunteer or tutor with our clubs. So say, for instance, we have educational pathways for impoverished children, right? So EPIC, this club, was founded by one of our students who went to Costa Rica, and they have expanded this to say, okay, now we want to teach students in Costa Rica, teach students in Nepal, right, online. And they're actually doing this summer. So this summer is still a time where students who feel like, oh, wow, I haven't done enough. You can still add something onto your resume. You can still do something that you can talk about in an essay later this summer, especially if you've already done something like Nepal or Costa Rica or Ningxia. This would be a good follow-up for you to continue something that you've already been doing, right? And of course, we have other clubs too, like Super Joey. They've been donating food to the people staying in hospitals. We have our 3D printing club donating PPE supplies. So we have lots of things that you can still get involved in.
Great. It seems like students are continuing enhancing their resume, even this is the last summer, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so here actually, Mr. Ren can talk about 3 of his success stories.
Yes. So here's a student, the GPA you see is weighted 4.757, started his own computer nonprofit called Power Up Project. He took 12 AP classes, did our microfinance program in Ningxia. I think he said it was after his freshman year. Then the summer before senior year, he participated in Penn's MNTSI program, which is their Business Plus Technology program. He's a varsity soccer player, peer tutor leader, did Science Olympiad, and interned at the Fermi Lab, right? So these are some pretty good credentials, right? And he got into Penn, the Management Technology program, ED. And of course, M&T, we know, is a very specific selective program. So if you think about who gets into Wharton, who gets into the engineering school, it's just this very small overlap between the two. Right. And then our next case study, so a 3.78 unweighted, 4.22 GPA, one of our San Diego students, SAT 1530, 6 AP classes, had an economics internship at San Diego State, had a financial internship, then did the Berkeley Business Academy, volunteered with church, had a school magazine, wrote for the school magazine where he had this cultural exchange with students from Cuba, right? So he talked about in his essays about breaking down prejudices between Cuba and America. He was also a track and field athlete, and he got into Berkeley. And next, so also this is one of my proudest cases, I would say. So you can see GPA 3.73 unweighted, 4.0 weighted, SAT 1480, right? 6 AP classes, summer programs at Columbia and Cornell, participated in Solar Car Club, and so he's into engineering, right? So the summer program at Cornell was about engineering. Solar Car Club, that's engineering too. UCI Chapman dual enrollment, as his school didn't really have the calculus classes that most high schools do. He was part of our Ningxia program, so he went there multiple times. So not only did he participate in Greenhouse, he also started his own scholarship foundation called Sprout Potential, and went back every year after a freshman year to interview students and disperse scholarships so that the students there can continue their education, continue from middle school into high school, and then eventually onto college. So I do believe this story really helped him out a lot. So that plus he already had his Cornell engineering background. I think those two combined really helped him get into Cornell early decision.
Ren, actually, this is great teamwork. I know that Mr. Wei was his counselor for 4 years in high school, and then you actually worked as his editor. So I wonder if Mr. Wei has anything to comment on Mike.
Well, just like many of the other Ivy Max students, when they started college planning as an 8th grader or high school freshman, they have very high level goals, right? So in Michael's case, as you can tell, he doesn't have the highest GPA numbers. In fact, he lagged behind many of his competitors from the same high school, and his SAT scores, are not extremely high either. Many of our students, in fact, have over 1,500 on SAT and many other 800s on their SAT2s, and even AP classes, right? Compared to the first case Rw Law shared, where by the end of 11th grade, the student already had 12 AP classes, and in Michael's case, he only had 6. So as you can tell, academically, he's definitely not the strongest candidate, right? But his passion in engineering, especially mechanical engineering, through various different activities, as well as his humanitarian efforts, right? The service projects that he continued to do throughout high school really made him a standout candidate. So if eventually he still realized his dream and can go to Cornell and study mechanical engineering. So again, as one of the parents asked in the chat window, how come, when we say we don't want to talk about common topics in all of our essays, then isn't community service work or humanitarian work also a common topic? Well, yeah, if you look at that whole area as a whole, yes, it is. But there are so many different things you can do to impact others and contribute to your school or your communities. So if you look at the specific things students write about, they are all over the map, number one. Number two, even if they write about the same things, right? Rw Law mentioned earlier, the essay has to have not only just the experiences themselves, they have to include students' reflections, takeaways, lessons they've learned, how these experiences have impacted them in terms of their personal growth. So once you add these other elements, the essays are very different. They can come from all different angles and talk about all different kinds of personal reflections and individual learnings, right? They can be completely different. And I still remember one year, I have 3 students who all went with me to the Ningxia trip, and they are all part of SEE, 1 girl and 2 boys. And in fact, all 3 of them are in the same student group as well of 6 students. So they did the exactly same thing in our Ningxia village. But the girl got into Stanford and Chicago that year, and 1 boy got into Princeton, the other boy got into Yale. If you look at their essays, they're all talking about their Ningxia experience, but all 3 essays are completely different because they have different academic aspirations. So they approach these experiences from different angles, focusing on different things. And if you just read the essays, you would have thought they did something completely different that summer. And yet all 3 of them were in the same student group on the same project with me in Ningxia. So of course, it also has something to do with our guidance, with the editors, working with them on these essays. So they all turn out to be very individualized reflections and growing up experiences for these students.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Wei and Mr. Ren. I believe that parents and students have a lot of questions to ask. So that's a good news. Actually, Mr. Renhong and then Mr. Wei, they actually co-authored an essay book, which is going to be put in publication soon. So Mr. Wei and Mr. Ren, do you want to talk about your book?
Sure, yes. So in this book, we actually dissect a lot of successful essays why they worked, what they talked about, and what students who are preparing for college can learn from them to say, okay, here's how I know what to do, what not to do. Right.
好，那我再加两句中文，就是这本书确实是这么多年来飞达很多老师的这个心血的结晶，对吧？那当然里面这有好几篇文章都是仁宏老师亲笔的。那像他说的那样，就是说里面不光是我们这些老师的经验，里面用了很多很具体的学生的作文，每一篇这个书的每一篇章节里面都有具体的学生作文的分析，所以就说仁宏老师说了，刚才对吧？学生什么地方写得好，为什么好？那开始是怎么写的，为什么不好？老师又是怎么指导他们，怎么样引导他们把它一遍一遍的写得好，最后成了很成功的这个很打动人心的 essays。那里面用了很多很多的案例，所以就说这本书确实会帮到今年秋天要申请的12年级的高中生，那当然以后将来的几年要申请的学生也会从中受益不少。那我们这本书呢，应该是这个月底就会出版了，就会正式出笼了。所以就说今天我也在这提醒大家一次，就是说如果有兴趣的家长，赶快跟飞达中心你们熟悉的老师联系，就是说之前可以 pre-order the book， 那pre-order price 当然会比将来在 Amazon 上要便宜一些，所以就是说有兴趣的家长可以考虑pre-order the book 呢。然后在左边的这个信息呢，是我们8月份飞达教育也会专门推出一个5次课的系列课程，我会亲自辅导一小部分学生，就是说怎么样针对目前各式各样的挑战，去把他们的大学申请的文章写好。那这个5堂课呢，我也欢迎家长，就是说学生有兴趣的话，赶快跟我们学习中心联系，因为8月3号周一还有几个礼拜的时间，但就是说一开课是很快的步骤，我们5堂课里面会 cover 所有这个 UC 的 prompts 和其他的这些所谓 popular essay topics 该怎么样去策划自己的文章。好，谢谢大家。
All right, thank you, Mr. Wei. Thank you, Mr. Ren. So here we are. What would be the more specifics on what should we do the last summer in high school for the rising seniors as well as for the rising sophomore or rising freshmen? Okay, so Mr. Wei.
Well, as we have always stressed, if we are really aiming at the best of the best, the high-tier colleges, we have to work on figuring out what our mission in lives are, not just what we're going to study major-wise at these colleges, right? Stanford wants every applicant to declare a mission, not just a major, right? Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Penn, Columbia, every single one of the top-tier schools want young people who are interested in going to these schools to carry something weighty on their shoulders, right? Yale said pretty much the same thing. They only are interested in young people who are concerned about something larger than themselves, right? So it's the same message. You need to figure out what your mission in life is, not just what you want to study major-wise. In fact, you need to know the mission, and even if you don't know what you want to study major-wise, colleges will take you anyway. So that's really what I hope everybody gets from today's seminar, as well as from many of our seminars, how to work together with your IB Max counselor to figure out what your mission in life is going to be. Okay, next. Now, of course, once you have figured out the mission, or while you're still figuring out what the mission will be, there are many specific things you need to do. Right? In particular, for this summer, SAT prep is still important. Okay, even though, as Ms. Zhang mentioned, many of the top-tier schools have announced standardized test scores will be optional. Right, this fall, you don't have to present your SAT score, but think about it. If everything else being equal, you would have had a perfect SAT score, and now if you don't have that score, you are going to be less competitive, right? Because there will be other competitors who never had a score. And in the old days, who are not even allowed to apply because they don't even meet the minimum application requirement because they don't have a score, but yet they have other competitive advantages. They are underserved, they are disadvantaged members of society, or they have other softer qualities that are making them very competitive in the admissions process. So now all of a sudden they are going to be able to take away some of the spots in the admitted pool. So in other words, there are fewer spots that will be available to Asian American students. So that's why you need to have even higher scores to be competitive enough. Okay, so again, for the summer, don't forget about these tests. If you still planning to take the test in August, September, or October, make sure you are well prepared. Okay, next. Now, of course, Mr. Renhong mentioned earlier, right? There are online AP for credit classes many of the students can leverage and be able to pursue this summer when you cannot do many of the other things. Well, guess what? The second session will start next week on July 15th and on various related dates, early part of next week. We still have multivariable calc, AP Calculus BC, AP Psychology, and AP Statistics. These are still classes students can register and make productive use of their summertime and boost their academic record for college application purposes. Next. Keep going. And of course, just this morning, we have held a public policy institute forum with the mayor of San Ramon in Northern California. So with that forum, many of our students this morning were able to interact with the mayor and asking all kinds of interesting and important questions about the challenges, the issues we face as individuals and as families, and as well as a nation during this pandemic. So a great opportunity for kids who are still 14, 15-year-olds and can learn something, very insightful information about how the city government works and what the mayor is doing during this time period, right? With respect to San Ramon as a city, to the city residents, as well as you know, what we can do all as individuals. And I remember very specifically, the mayor has mentioned, just like what the 315 colleges admission deans have said in their collective statement, right? Take care of yourself and your family during this pandemic. Don't forget, right? We are all aspire to do great things in our lives, but everything starts small and it starts with our own personal circles and our family. So you can do all kinds of great things in the community, but don't forget to help out around the house, help your mom and dad and help your siblings. Now, of course, great opportunities still lie ahead in terms of hackathon for students who are interested in STEM and in particular in the CS. So in August, we're gonna hold a hackathon designed and organized and executed by our own students. So I encourage everybody to find out more and participate. Now, of course, there's also the August debate, speech and debate tournament. We have had a very useful, successful one in June. So we're gonna hold another one. And again, these are gonna be all designed and executed and organized by our all volunteer students. And of course, for those who are interested in many of these kinds of activities during the summer and beyond the summer, starting this Sunday, in a couple of days, we're gonna have the Student Club Day webinar, where more than 50 of our Ivy Max student organizations will introduce themselves and finding passionate members who can join their efforts, as well as finding responsible young people who can serve as officers for many of these clubs, because Many of the founders or officers are graduating this year. They're heading over to Harvard, Stanford, top-tier schools. So they are also looking for successors in many of these student organizations. Okay. All right. And of course, for many of these opportunities, if they are service-oriented and they, actually have great impacts on others and the community, we as Ivy Max Foundation goals can also certify the hours for student participation. So you will be able to accumulate hours for Presidential Service Award purposes as well. Okay, next. And of course, finally, as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow at 2 p.m., we will have a webinar specific about all the new challenges in response to the collective statement from the 315 colleges. So I welcome all parents and students who are interested in some of the new changes, as well as this additional information from colleges, and as well as many sources around the internet. Let's try to dissect them all and find out what are real information that we can leverage and what are just myths or disinformation that we should ignore, or not that these kinds of misinformation to kind of deter us from our planning efforts and kind of negatively affect our efforts in terms of reaching our dream schools. So welcome to join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. We are going to cover many of the interesting developments and the latest developments in college admission process. All right, that's all what we have prepared. And during the final stage, I think the moderators will pick out some questions from the audience and probably leverage the last few minutes in Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wei. So, Sophia, can you take it over from me?
Sure, no problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Wei, Mr. Ren, and Ms. Zhang. And going to have our Q&A sections. And if any parents have any question, please type your question in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer all your questions. So let's see, what's our first question? Is COVID-19 will be a popular topic for this year? What should we do with this topic? What can we do during COVID-19 to help students in college application?
So you've already said that there's the 250-word segment about COVID-19, how it might have affected you. So that is a spot for you to talk about if you do want to. I do caution against having all of your essays be about COVID-19, just because everyone's going to write about it. So I would use your judgment when it comes to what you would say about how the pandemic has impacted you.
To echo what Mr. Ren Hong has just said in Chinese, 这个 COVID-19 的这个250字的作文题目呢，一定不是所有的学生都要回答要写的。OK， 这个是很重要的一个概念。为什么这么说呢？因为它并不是Common Application 今年推出的新的作文题目，它只是把这个250字的 COVID-19 的题目包括在这个平时每年早就已经有的这个 additional information section， 也就是说 Common App 以前早就有这个部分，就是一个额外信息，可以给学生提供这个额外信息，一些很独特的信息的板块，可以叫 additional information section。那既然是 additional information section 的一部分，你如果没有很多独特的、很特别的东西其实是不应该写这个题目的。所以就说这个是很挑战的一件事情，到底该写还是不该写一定要跟这个很有经验的这个专家老师商量之后再决定。那我们所有在做申请的学生家长，一定不要误认为这个题目是每个学生必须要写的，不是这样子的。就是说，也要看学生到底具体有些什么内容要写，看看 最后能不能写这个250字这篇文章。
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ren. Thank you, Mr. Wei. And we have another question. Can you please repeat out what IB Max can do for students to prepare for the Olympian competition, and what's the competition do to help college application?
Okay, in English first, since standardized test scores are marginalized and then probably eventually will be phased out by many colleges, how students can demonstrate their competitive advantage is still critical and important, and are now only going to be based on students' academic record from school, which are their GPA numbers, especially the weighted GPA numbers, and their academic pursuits, including academic competitions, like all the Olympiads and other related academic competitions. So they are important for high school students in all of their grade levels. Even as students enter their senior year, enter their college application season, academic competitions are huge, especially for those eventually in the spring put on a wait list. If you don't participate in academic competitions, you pretty much don't have any new data in the spring semester of your senior year. So the continued pursuit and especially accomplishments, even in your senior year, will play a huge role in many students' ultimate outcomes. Okay, 张老师 maybe 你可以用中文解释一下。
Sorry, what was that?
这个 academic competition 为什么包括12年级学生都还要这个参与这些 competition 的活动？
OK， 好，对，我用中文解释一下好了，好不好？对，我其实有跟飞达的学生和家长有说过这件事情哈，就是对于12年级的孩子来讲呢，看起来因为他们的申请工作会在12月底和1月份结束，但是呢，大家知道就是 for quite a few years now， 最近这几年呢，这些好的大学呢会把孩子放在叫候补名单上，英文叫 waiting list。这个是非常 common 的一件事情，甚至于我们要恭喜了，如果你孩子被放到候补名单上，为什么呢？至少你没有被拒绝。那就是说，那孩子如果被放在这个候补名单上了之后，你怎么样去 fight？ 这也是飞达的团队就是很厉害的地方。我们今年呢已经很 successfully 帮助了不少的同学，然后呢成功的从这个候补名单上补录进了 UC Berkeley、UCLA、UCSD、UCI 就更多了。私立大学也有进 Columbia、MIT， 对，这类的学校哈，也都是不少的。所以为什么说小孩子到了12年级之后还要继续做这些 competition？ 就是 in a way 也是想就是天有不测风云，万一孩子被放到候补名单上的话，你这封 waitlist 的这个 letter 怎么去写？对吧？你不能说，你什么东西都没写，你什么都没做，他肯定会问你交了申请之后到现在你都做了什么？因为像这些 academic competition 都是在今年的年底和这个明年的年初，对，像数学竞赛是在2月份，然后物理的差不多从1月份开始，然后这个计算机的从这个今年年底12月份开始，对吧？它有不同的级别去 accelerate， 对，所以这些 academic competition 也真的是很重要，这是一个方面。第二个方面就是说，就算是小孩可能以后没有太多机会晋级的话，哈，那如果他的活动不够多的话，他们如果要是还是继续在做这些 academic competition 的话，也可以把它作为是一个这个extracurricular activities， 就是说可以作为一个很有意义的课外活动去写，对吧？刚刚前面任红老师也讲了，魏老师也讲了，对吧？就是最 popular 对吧？就是亚裔。中国孩子最喜欢申请的一些专业里边就包括 business， 包括 engineering， 包括这些就是大家都常见的这些专业，对吧？那你怎么样显示出来你这方面的兴趣呢？对吧？你光靠你在学校上了这个课啊，当然说你社团是一部分，然后你还可以有 evidence， 就是 to show 说，哎，那你也就是在这个竞赛方面自己有表示，对吧？比方说，因为在飞达这个礼拜天呢，我们这个社团日 Club Day， 如果来参观我们 Club Day 的家长和学生会发现，我们其实 飞达的学生在这个学术竞赛方面也是非常活跃的，他们在老师的指导下都有像这个 Girls in STEM 啊，对吧？然后呢，还有各种各样这种 competition 的这些社团呢，也都有。对，不仅仅是这个STEM 方面的这个 competition， 对吧？也有像 writing 的 competition、art competition， 这艺术还有这个写作这方面的，然后还有这个 history 对吧？历史方面的。我们前不久帮几个就带几个孩子成立了叫 California History Club， 就是我们飞达的这个学生，我们真的是鼓励他们在百家齐放、百家争鸣。所以说，如果孩子能有这个机会，其实既然到了12年级还继续的。在这方面有一些表示的话，绝对是有加分的这个效果，而且不要把所有的时间都花在补习和 SAT 上面，对，还是要很有效率的，就说去做一些 strategic planning， 对，好吧，魏老师，这是我的一个很长的说明。
谢谢。
好，谢谢张校长，谢谢魏老师。那今天的问答环节就到此结束。如果还有别的问题，各位家长欢迎扫我们屏幕上面的2维码入群。我们就是即使你有任何问题，在群里我们的老师也会尽力为您解答。最后在这儿今天的讲座已经接近尾声，飞达文教基金会邀请您加入10元爱心捐赠行列，用于集资疫情期间购买医疗用品，支持本地医护人员、老人院、警察局等。您的捐赠能帮助肺炎病毒在社区的传播。今天感谢各位来宾的到来，我们的讲座到此结束。就像我刚刚说的，如果各位还有更多的问题，就请赶紧扫码加入我们的咨询站吧。谢谢。
好，谢谢索菲亚老师，谢谢任红老师。Thank you, Ren. Thank you, Mr. Wei.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah.
谢谢大家。
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
拜拜。
Some of you tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.